students. I'm sorry I didn't have the Zoom thing ready for you today. Oh gosh, it just didn't work. So I'm going to go through this with you. This is what we talked about in today's meeting. So basically, I'm introducing you to these adverbs, which we use to avoid stereotypes. Stereotypes are when we say things like, people in Seattle love coffee. Well, if I say people in Seattle love coffee, that's not true. Not everybody in Seattle loves coffee. If I say people in Asia eat rice every day, that's not true. Not everybody in Asia eats rice every day. So I need to use this list of words to avoid stereotypes and generalizations. Let's look at the examples. By and large, people in Seattle love coffee. In general. In general, people in Asia eat rice 3 times a day. Generally speaking. Generally speaking, it rains a lot in Seattle. Most. Most people in the U.S. are good at making small talk. Notice I don't say most of people. No, just most people. For the most part. For the most part, people in Seattle drive to work. Typically. Typically means exactly as usually. People in the U.S. typically don't like people to touch them. Usually. People in Ukraine usually drink tea more than they drink coffee. Tend to. Tend to is a verb. Americans tend to let their dogs live in the house. Americans tend to be early to events, not late. In this one, I have tend to plus the verb. In this one, I have tend to plus the be verb because this word is an adjective. So in the sentences, which you're also going to have a homework assignment similar to this, you're going to learn how to explain differences. So I have adverbs and a word to explain differences. Number 1, while. Most people in the U.S. drink coffee, while most people in China drink tea. For example, people in the U.S. typically drink a cup of coffee every morning, or they can't wake up. Differ from. Differ is a verb. Differ from, in, plus what are we talking about? How are they different? What area of life? In general, people in the U.S. differ from people in Mexico in the food they eat. Mexican people tend to eat spicier food than American people. Differ from people in Mexico in food, in transportation, differ in hobbies, differ in clothes. Number 3, more than. People in the U.S. drive cars more than people in Japan. People in Japan take buses, trains, and subways. Here, you're going to notice that I have a sentence, and then in the second sentence, I explain the first sentence. So I said people in Japan, then I explain people in Japan. People in Japan take buses, trains, and subways. On one hand, on the other hand. On one hand, Americans are usually friendly. Now I'm going to explain friendly. They typically like to make small talk with strangers. On the other hand, comma, they don't like to have people stand close to them. Explain, they need their space. Number 5, however, generally speaking, Americans are friendly. They like to make small talk with strangers. However, comma, they don't like to have people stand close to them. They need their space. Comparative, ER then. By and large, Americans are bigger than people in Asia. Maybe it is because of what they eat. When I have ER, I never put more. I don't put more bigger, I just say bigger. Okay, so now we're going to go back to modules and we're going to find your 2 assignments that you need to do. to go down. Come on. Okay, good. To go to here. So the first assignment is you're going to do just like what we had done, but you're going to think of two places and the differences, and you're going to write 6 comparative sentences, each followed by an example or detail. So you'll have 12 total sentences, and you will also use adverbs. So you're going to do exactly what I did here. 2 sentences with while, 2 sentences with differ from in, 2 sentences with more than. And again, you choose the countries. It doesn't have to be the US and Ukraine or the US and South Korea. You could choose the US, you could choose Canada and the US, or South Korea and North Korea, or Russia and Ukraine, or Algeria and France, or China and Taiwan, any 2 places you would like, or Mexico and the US. And that's 50 points due on Thursday. Then we have a paper. So for this assignment, you're going to do the same thing, but we're going to talk about 2 places again, but you're going to write it in a paper. And here I explain my writing to you. But there are 5 things I want to explain about vocabulary in here. So this writing is imagining I am still living in Japan. So think about me being in Japan when I wrote this. So I'm just going to read it. I don't need to read the whole thing, but I want to show you a few things. My life has changed dramatically since I came here. Change dramatically means change a lot. Then I say, one difference is the language. Then I explain everything about how the language, learning Japanese, was difficult for me, and I have several sentences. Then I have a new paragraph, and I say another difference is the food. And then I focus it, and I said I am not a fan of seafood. And then I talk about my eating differences between Japan and the United States. One thing I said is, instead of seafood, instead of means not seafood, instead of seafood, and I say what I eat. Then my last idea, so I say finally, manners are different here. And what I talk about here is in Japan, people are very indirect. Indirect means you don't say yes or no quickly. For example, in the United States, if I ask my friend, would you like to come to my house? Very fast, she'll say, yes, that sounds great. But maybe in Japan, the person would be, oh, go to your house. Oh, that sounds good. Well, where is your house? They would be more slowly to say yes or no. That means they are more indirect, more slowly to answer. And that's part of Japanese culture. Then when I end my paragraph, I say all in all. All in all is a word that means I am finishing my writing. It's similar to in conclusion, but generally speaking, in conclusion is used more often when you have a long piece of writing. This one isn't so long, so you say all in all, or basically, or to some. So I hope this helps you understand what we did today during our Zoom lesson. I'm going to meet students. I meet students on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday on Zoom at 11 o'clock. And I meet students on Monday and Thursday at 11 o'clock. Okay, I hope that this helps you. Goodbye.